A good example is when you expect, for example, in a day like that one they call Valentine, to be taken out, and then the person you expect him to take you out does not even appear, and you remain with a gap, and that gap is called expectations gap. Or for example, you expect that when police comes to your home, they are going maybe to help you in case there was a scandal, but when they come, they only ask for bribes. What you're expecting versus the actual position is called expectations gap. The differences between what users of accounts perceive to be the role of an auditor, perceive to be role of an auditor, and the actual role as per the Companies Act, actual role as per the Companies Act. Let me try to put this one in form of like a small formula. When we say we have expectations gap, we mean that the user of the financial statement has a very high expectation of what the user or what the auditor should do compared to exactly what an auditor does, the actual responsibility of an auditor, actual role of an auditor. The difference between what the users of the financial statement expect to be the role of an auditor and the actual role of an auditor according to the Companies Act is called the expectations gap. Most users of the financial statement believe that an auditor is supposed to prevent errors and frauds, and he does not. Most users think that the auditor is supposed to prepare books of accounts. He does not. Most users believe that the auditor is supposed to write a report and report to management. He does not. He writes to the shareholders. Most users believe that the auditor is supposed to report about accuracy of the company's financial statement. He does not. This is what we expect the auditor to do. But what does he do? He just writes a report. He just writes a report. And he does what? He expresses his report in a small statement called opinion. He forms an opinion. This is what we perceive to be the role of an auditor. This is what the actual role of an auditor is as per the Companies Act. So the differences between what we believe the work of an auditor to be and the actual role of an auditor is referred to as what? Expectations gap. Expectations gap arises because of the misconception between what users think the work of an auditor should be and the actual role of an auditor. And that's how we define that particular term. But you need to note that there are several elements of expectations gap. If the users of the financial statement do not understand the standards and what they contain and how they guide the auditor, that is called standard gap. Arises because the users do not understand what? The international standards on auditing. The user of the financial statement believe that the auditor is performing below standard. He's giving less than what we expect. The performance of an auditor is below standard, and that is called performance gap. Some users of the financial statement do not know who is supposed to sue an auditor. Is it us? Is it the management? For that case, we call it the liability gap. The liability gap. Standard gap, when the users of the financial statement do not understand the international standards on auditing. Performance gap, when the auditor is performing below the standard or does not give quality or value for money. Liability gap, when the user does not understand to whom the auditor's liability is to. Is it the shareholders or the management? Those are the expectations gap. Sometimes we need to go ahead and talk about how can we bridge this gap, minimize the gap. If you want to minimize the gap, it's very simple. If this person is thinking like this, and this is the actual position, we need to bridge the gap. To bridge the gap is very simple.